evening. Coming up on tonight's broadcast, was cartoonist Malcolm Evans really sacked from the Herald for having a go at Israel? Protesters at Parliament, Winston under fire. Controversial media dog is replaced by a cat as king shit hits fan. And the strange and shocking world of student TV, cutting-edge culture, including the Walk of Shame, reality TV's finest moment. All that, and your letters too. When it comes to getting your point across, there's nothing more grassroots or hands-on than actual protest. While other cultures are prepared to set themselves on fire or hurl missiles at the pigs, New Zealanders take a more sensible approach. In part 2 of an exclusive report on Parliament, we cross the picket line and enter the zone where power and chaos collide. Parliament is a magnet for protesters from all walks of life. If you've got a bee in your bonnet, the beehive is the place to let it out.
This protester is asleep.
It's an intriguing sign. Police conspiracy, state secrets framed, branded, drugged, human rights, 30 litres pea ingredient, I say polygraph lie detector test, child trade, tangata rights.
He obviously didn't take the pee. If he took the pee, he wouldn't be sleeping.
Meanwhile, the GE protest is a little more focused. About 100 anti-GE enthusiasts have gathered to give Marion Hobbs a run for her GE-loving money.
The approval process is very, very cautious.
It's easy to scoff, but there's something heroic about getting off your ass and having a go, especially if you're suffering from a lack of iron. An unlikely knight in anti-GE armour, Winston Peters is here to help promote a book by his old mate Jonathan Ison.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
In 3 words or less, what's your book about?
3 words or less.
But before Jonathan had time to plug his new book, which attacks the GE Royal Commission, a rogue protester turns up to give Winnie a mysterious ear-bashing.
I'm ex-SAS from Vietnam. I won't give it, all right? I won't give it, man.
We want to hear please.
Winston, I won't give it, bud.
At first, onlookers thought it was Horse from Treasure Island, but it didn't look like the filth were taking him to Malululele. It was about then that my lack of journalistic experience kicked in and I began to wonder just what those coppers listened to through those cool earpieces.
Picking girls up in a women's clothing store is one of the boldest pickups because you go straight to where the girls are. And girls love to help a just slightly helpless prince, whether it's shopping or, as you know, in bed.
And I won't give in, mate.
By another 5 years.
Because I hate the cunts.
Let's encourage our politics.
3 words or less, what's the protest about?
Opposition to GE.
What are you doing in 3 words or less?
Smoking the beehive.
Bees could get under here like this.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
To be really successful, a protest needs a good photo op. And today the GE-free beekeepers provide superb pictures that will soon be beamed around the country.
Now, do you have to be mothers or can you just be women? I suppose then it would be WAJ.
Yeah, we just came to present the other side's case. Basically what we're saying is genetic engineering is the choice of the individual.
Now, what does the D stand for?
What does the D stand for?
Now, who made your sign for you?
Oh, I did.
And have you got another one behind that?
Yeah, I just keep on taping them over the top each time I go and do something.
Can you show us what the last one was?
I think... Oh, that was when we were handing out normal newses to people.
All right, okay.
I think Provo's doing a fantastic job.
And in a brilliant move, the organisers have wheeled out a woman who looks like Helen Clark crossed with Linda Clark. A truly frightening warning illustrating the dangers of pissing in the gene pool and splicing Clarks, as if they were super Toms.
She does what I tell her. And so should you. I am the Prime Minister after all.
How long have you been protesting for?
Since about May this year.
Are you pleased with the way so far the protest is progressing?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
It's to do with Parliament, police involved as well, I believe. Children?
Yeah, well, as I say, it's...
Maoris?
Yeah,
Seems like pretty much everybody's involved.
Planetary, basically.
I think tangata is TA, isn't it? Tangata. So what's the general gist, though? Obviously there's some P involved, but what happened exactly?
Oh, it's a long story in that, but yeah. Just deal with it that way, eh?
I'm still in the dark. I'm completely in the dark. I don't understand.
Oh, yeah, well, it's, yeah. Anyway,
Nominated for Best Telling Off on State TV.
Welcome back. I'm talking to John Pilger.
Why don't you do your homework?
What homework haven't I done?
That's a serious question to you. Why don't you do your homework? Why don't you ask some informed questions and broadcast this?
Mr. Pilger, you have
haven't
been
prepared for this interview.
Immoderately angry.
And you waste my time because you have not prepared for this interview as any journalist done. And I've done many interviews. And the one thing is to prepare for them. And this interview, frankly, is a disgrace.
What preparation would you have cared for, Mr. Pilger?
Just read. Read. Takes time.
Still to come, the cartoon controversy at the Herald, student TV terror, booze-fueled, shocking, sex-crazed antics, and Mike King madness. The fallout continues.
Dear Coffee, I write to you with a heavy heart. Not that I haven't been watching my diet. In fact, Deborah only buys meat with the Heart Foundation tick. But I do try to look after myself, as indeed all men of our stature need to, Coffee. Oh, and may I say you do seem a very fit-looking man for your age. Though I suppose you used to run from village to village, Yes, well, I do hope we can still be friends, Coffee. And I've enclosed a free copy of my CD, which I do hope you enjoy. Although, I do suppose you'd probably like something with a bit more drumming on it. Anyway, it has been a tough time for me, Coffee, but my friends have been truly wonderful. Why, just the other day, I was talking to my friend Leighton. He loves Negro music.
Nothing is going right.
Earlier this year, the New Zealand Herald and its editorial cartoonist Malcolm Evans parted company. The issue at the heart of the dispute is a series of cartoons that criticise the Israeli government and their treatment of the Palestinians. The paper received a number of complaints from readers angered by what they saw as anti-Semitic overtones. Evans was asked to back off the subject, which the paper thought was receiving undue coverage. He refused and was shown the door. After 7 years at the Herald, cartoonist Malcolm Evans was fired under a cloud of anti-Semitic accusations on one side and talk of a Jewish lobby controlling free speech on the other. It's the strange story that saw the Cartoonist of the Year out of a job and seeking legal redress from the country's largest newspaper. Since the dismissal, the paper has refused to comment, citing legal advice.
Talk us through the dismissal. What happened exactly?
In a series of cartoons over a period of time, I'd expressed opinions which upset some people in the Jewish community, and the editor had came to me and required me not to do work on that anymore.
This is the cartoon that was the final straw for the Herald. It draws parallels between Israel and South Africa's apartheid regime.
To draw attention with what I believe to be an undeniable similarity between the manner in which the Palestinian people are being subjugated by the Jewish community in Israel.
Writing in the NBR, columnist David Cohen asked if Evans was
a hapless victim of outright censorship, or just another guy with too many habits and not enough thought.
He contends that Evans had an obsession with Israel and scoffs at suggestions of a Jewish conspiracy.
Do you know how many Jewish people are in New Zealand? Would you like to hazard a guess?
2,000?
It's about 4,000 or 5,000, broadly defined. Now that's a microscopic population, because if you discount children and old folk and recent immigrants, we're talking about maybe a few hundred people. The idea that there's some type of organised, nefarious, behind-the-scenes grouping is asinine. It's unproved and unprovable.
Cartoonist Anthony Ellison is also known to push boundaries in his work. Following Evans' departure from the Herald, he commented via this piece in The Listener.
If it was a question of him being silenced by some Jewish conspiracy, I mean, that's the road he's going down, and Brian Edwards has followed, then it's a bit of a shocker. If it's a case of him being dismissed because, hey, the employer's had enough, then that's shocking for Malcolm.
Like other younger cartoonists, Ellison is critical of Evans' work, which has also been known to offend other groups, including women and Maori.
You know, it's the whole women should be in the kitchen, all Māori or Polynesian, good-natured and fat.
As the weeks went by, the Herald remained silent, citing legal and employment issues. There were no letters about the departure published in the paper, even though many were written. It all began to look a bit ominous. As Metro magazine pointed out, when a newspaper is accused of censorship, it's a big story.
The Herald has left everyone wondering and given ammunition to those who believe a Jewish lobby is stifling journalism.
This is an issue of freedom of speech.
But for some, no ammunition is necessary. To them, Palestine is always the question, and with no answers from the Herald, this protest was their response.
An actual abuse of an individual's right to speak out.
I think it's easy here in New Zealand for us to, pontificate. I mean, we're in Wellington, which is a settlement that was built on land that was robbed from the native Polynesians here. I don't see this country giving back, the North Island.
Since his departure from the Herald, Evans has kept busy with his bronze work and was recently hired by the Harbour News as an editorial cartoonist. His subjects are now a little closer to home.
I don't think he was attacking Jews. I just think his use of stereotypes has just brought him a shitload of grief, to be quite honest.
I think it behoves people like Mr. Evans to tread very carefully, and that is what he was asked to do, and that is what he was apparently unable to do.
Since filming that item, Malcolm Evans has dropped his legal action against the paper, and the Herald is finally able to tell its side of the story via a statement, which included the following.
As Malcolm Evans was a contributor, he was not sacked. The Herald refused to publish his cartoons because he resubmitted cartoons that had already been rejected. He was abusive when told a cartoon was not original or funny. He failed to acknowledge the Herald would not publish in a cartoon symbols which had religious significance but were intended to represent secular or governmental bodies, such as the Star of David and the Crescent and Star of Islam.
Heading tonight's bulletin, an international summit of leading scientists have come to the conclusion that the world is fucked. Which probably explains why I'm now placing a gun in my mouth and pulling the trigger.
And in a statement issued by the Vatican this afternoon, the Pope has finally admitted that there is no God. And not so coincidentally, before going on air this evening, I swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills and should be dead within...
Why is the news always depressing?
Still to come, student television, booze-fueled, shocking animal sex-crazed antics, and Mike King madness, the Tanty Top 10. To the celebrity share market now. Preggers Petrie up after Ralston Rave and Women's Day. Kate Hawkesby freshens up with new best friend Eric Young. Modad, Mark Slave, hip-hop's up the market with new idea Baby Bonanza. And Han Shandy Dye continues to slide. Despite the mass murders and zealous parking police, Dunedin has many things going for it. Not least of which is the excellent and unpredictable Cow TV, a nightly insight into the very heart of the Scarfie. Broadcast on Dunedin's Channel 9, Cow TV is a refreshing oasis in the infomercial desert that is regional TV. But just a warning, if animal sex offends you, it may be time to make a cuppa. 9:30 p.m. on a cold Dunedin night, and I'm on location with Cow TV in search of beer.
We usually go to people's flats and bust in and see if they've got space in the fridge.
Hey! How are you? Oh my God! The quickest one yet.
These women have just one beer for having beer. It's a theme of student TV here.
You got space already?
Cow TV is fueled by its sponsor in more ways than one. Nearly the entire schedule at Cow TV is built around alcohol.
We're on. Oh, there we're on.
Welcome to Spates Cow TV. And it's everyone.
Hi, I'm Jim Bush, and this week on Who Dares Wins Beers, we've got a doozy. Set, go!
There's Who Dares Wins Beers,
City down the road for 30 seconds. Beautiful.
the Bearable Art Awards, the Drunken Dancing Dashin', and Barmy Boozer Size. But the most notorious show is the Walk of Shame.
I think we do. Here's the Walk of Shame.
How are you? Where are you just coming home from? Church?
Based around early morning stakeouts, catching sexed-up students who have been caught out, staying out, before slinking home, all sweaty.
And, how did you rate them?
You've already got me on this last year with exactly the same guy.
Oh, well, is it the same guy all the time, or was it just bad luck that it was this night?
Bad luck it was just like it, my hair. What would you rate her out of 10?
Oh, should be a good 4.5, I'd say, just a standard night for me.
Where did he lose those other few points? Was it his kissing technique?
Not kissing technique, it's just that I've had better roots this year.
But it's not all fun and games on Channel 9.
Good evening and welcome to Loose Women, the ever-increasingly outrageous show in which myself and 4 women offer advice and opinions about your letters and problems.
Loose Women is an advice show that expertly combines shrubbery with women's issues.
I think if you're with a good thing, I'd stay with it myself.
Topics covered include everything from contraception to advice on oral sex.
Blow him. You be yourself and blow him.
And there's nature on 9 too, because who isn't soothed by seal love? Cow TV returns to the airwaves in February of next year. Let's face it, Mike King isn't alone when it comes to blowing a fuse. Some of our best and brightest have blown a head gasket or thrown a rod. So here's to the heroes of broken blood vessels, the kings of conniptions, the apes of apoplexy, the bad news. Here's to the spitters of the dummy. Behold, the Tanty Top 10. 10. A group tanty at 10 as the Springbok tour hits Hamilton in 81. 9. Fishing fists of fury, it's Bob Jones versus Rod Vaughan. 8. Helen Clark in Aussie Tally Tantrum.
Okay.
Well, no, hang on.
Right, sorry. No. You know, we've made that very clear.
7. It's Preble-ageddon in Parliament.
The member knows that he is completely out of order in saying that I'm...
You're out of order.
6. Tyson tastes ear. 5. American Top 40 filth.
Hi, this is Casey Kasem. I want somebody to use his fucking brain to not come out of a goddamn record that is that's up tempo, and I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
4.
Your questions.
Head for the hills as Kim throws book at Pilger.
Your book is leading.
And
You're
ill-informed.
3. Yappy madness as beer-gutted bastard goes berserk. 2. Dennis Connor says shit. And at number 1.
We're going to just take it away, will you?
In this 1987 tantrum, Testy Tizard takes on plucky Kerry-Ann Evans.
I am concerned about these people. Take it away when you say
Excuse me, sir.
And that's our show. Coming up next week, the Lord of the Rings media circus, the footage they don't want you to see. And question time in the House. What politicians really get up to, all funded by Muggins the taxpayer. From all of us here at Eating Media Lunch, still getting a course's mouth. At number 97. The 1974 Commonwealth Games was a smorgasbord of golden moments.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.